It started with a laugh. Hers. Light, carefree, echoing through the hallway like everything was fine. I remember the way she sounded that morning. The way she kissed me goodbye, her lips lingering just a second longer than usual. Felt like love. Felt real. But now I know better. Now I know what love sounds like when it's lying. My name is Mark. I'm 34, been married for 6 years. And until last month, I thought my wife, Jessica, was the one person in this world who would never betray me. God, I was wrong. We live in a nice suburb outside of Denver. Not fancy, but comfortable. I run a small security installation business, home systems, cameras, smart locks, all that stuff. Ironically, that's how this whole nightmare began. With the very thing I built to keep us safe. Jessica works from home. She's a freelance graphic designer, so she's always around, usually sitting in the kitchen with her laptop, headphones in, a coffee mug half full of something she never finishes. I trusted her completely. Never thought twice about what she was doing during the day while I was out working jobs. Until one Thursday. It was raining, I remember that detail too well. The kind of cold, miserable drizzle that soaks through your jacket and into your bones. I just finished a job on the east side and decided to check the remote camera feeds from our house while I sat in my van eating lunch. Not for any reason, just out of habit. Paranoia, I guess. Or instinct. I opened the app. Skipped through the motion-triggered clips. Dog running past. Mailman. Jessica going into the kitchen. Then, something weird. A clip from 2 days ago. Jessica at the front door. Smiling. Hugging someone. I paused it. Zoomed in. My stomach turned cold. It was him. Her ex Tyler. Tall. Tan. That same smug grin I remembered from the wedding. The one he wore when he toasted to old flames. Like it was some kind of joke. I hadn't seen him in years. She said they were done. Said he moved to LA, said there was no contact. But there he was. On my porch. And she was hugging him like a secret she'd missed too much. I told myself not to overthink. Maybe he just dropped by. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she didn't tell me because she knew I'd be uncomfortable. But then I kept watching. The next clip was worse. Way worse. Him walking inside. Her closing the door. Locking it. The footage skipped. Motion clips don't catch everything. But they caught enough. The kitchen. Them talking. Her touching his arm. Laughing. Then him leaning in. Kissing her. And she let him. Didn't pull away. Didn't stop. She kissed him like she used to kiss me when we first met. Slow. Hungry. Familiar. I sat frozen in the van. The rain thudding against the windshield. My lunch untouched. My hands shaking. I didn't say anything that night. Couldn't. I watched her sleep beside me. Peacefully. Like she hadn't just shattered our entire life. I needed more. So I started checking every feed. Every saved clip. Every backup file. And what I found broke me. There were more clips. Not just one visit. Not just a mistake. Pattern. A goddamn routine. The next time he came, it was a Friday. I was working late, trying to finish up a job for a new client downtown. She knew that. She always asked what time I'd be home. Always made sure I'd text before I pulled into the driveway. At the time, I thought it was sweet. Thought she cared. But now I know why. She needed to know when the coast was clear. That Friday, the camera outside picked up his car. That same black Jeep I used to see parked outside her dorm when we were still dating. He walked up like he owned the place, barely even looking around. She opened the door before he knocked. Like she'd been waiting. They went straight to the bedroom. My bedroom. The feed didn't capture sound, but I could hear it anyway, in my head. Every laugh, every whisper, every damn moan. I watched her lead him down the hallway, her hand in his, her smile wide, comfortable. She didn't just look happy. She looked alive, like he gave her something I hadn't in years. I couldn't stop watching, couldn't look away, even when I felt sick, even when my chest ached so bad I thought I was having a heart attack. I sat there, alone in my office, surrounded by monitors, watching my wife betray me over and over again, in high definition. What made it worse was how normal everything felt afterward. The way she acted like nothing had happened. She called me that night, asked if I wanted her to order takeout. told me she missed me, that she was thinking about me. Jesus. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to be sure. Needed proof that I wasn't just reading too much into it. So I installed a hidden mic in the bedroom. Not something I do often, it's against protocol, but at this point I didn't care about rules. I just needed the truth. The next time he came over, I recorded everything. He called her Jess. She called him Ty. She told him she missed him, that she wished they had never broken up, that I didn't understand her the way he did. And then, like a knife to the chest, she laughed and said, "He's always so busy with work. He doesn't even notice." I noticed. I noticed every damn thing. I just trusted her too much to believe it. That night I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathe beside me, wondering how many times she had lied while looking me in the eye. I remembered our wedding vows, her voice trembling as she promised to be faithful, to be honest, to love only me. And now I knew every word had been a performance. I felt like a fool. I had spent years building a life for us, working overtime, skipping vacations, saving for a future I thought we both wanted. And she was building a fantasy with someone who belonged in her past. She didn't just cheat on me. She erased me, piece by piece, clip by clip, lie by lie. For a week, I lived like a ghost in my own home. Every time she touched me, I flinched. Every time she said she loved me, I bit my tongue so hard it bled. I'd look at her hands and wonder if they had still smelled like him when she touched my face. I'd listen to her hum in the kitchen, barefoot, in the same robe she wore that morning he left, and I'd feel physically ill. But I kept pretending. I smiled. I nodded. I kissed her goodnight, all while a storm built inside me, fierce and boiling and relentless. I was waiting, watching, collecting. I didn't know what for. Some part of me still hoped she'd come clean, that guilt would force the truth out of her. But guilt doesn't exist for people like her. Jessica didn't flinch, didn't act strange. If anything, she was more affectionate than usual, like she was trying to cover her tracks with a little extra sweetness. It was a Saturday night when I finally snapped. We were sitting on the couch, watching some Netflix comedy I didn't care about. She had her feet in my lap, a glass of red wine in her hand, laughing at something on screen. And I just looked at her, really looked. I saw her, not the version I loved, but the version I had missed all along. Calculated, cold, comfortable in her deceit. I reached into my hoodie pocket and pulled out a flash drive. I copied the footage, the audio, everything onto it. I didn't say anything, just handed it to her. She took it, confused. "What's this?" "Press play," I said calmly. My voice didn't even shake. "I don't know how." She hesitated, looked at me, then got up, plugged it into her laptop, and opened the file. Silence. Then the first clip rolled. Her and Tyler at the door, laughing, hugging, kissing. She froze. I watched the color drain from her face like someone had pulled a plug. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She paused it, skimmed forward, saw the next clip, and the next, and then the audio, her own voice, saying things she could never take back. She slammed the laptop shut. "Mark, no, don't," I said, standing up. My heart was racing, but I forced my face to stay blank. "You don't get to explain. You don't get to lie anymore." Tears started to form in her eyes. Crocodile tears. "Useless. Please, just let me." "You let him into our home," I said, my voice finally cracking. "Into our bed. You looked me in the eye every day and made me feel like I was crazy for trusting you." "It wasn't like that," she whispered. But even she didn't believe it. I took a step back. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything. I just stared at her like she was a stranger. Because she was. The woman I married wouldn't have done this. The woman I loved died the moment she chose him. I picked up my keys, walked out the door, left her there, sobbing on the couch like she was the victim. But the real pain hadn't even started yet. That would come later, when I learned the betrayal went deeper than I ever imagined. I didn't go far that night, just parked in the lot of a closed gas station, sat in my truck, and let the silence eat at me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. But all I did was sit there, fingers clenched around the steering wheel, staring out into the dark like it held some kind of answer. The cold seeped through the windows, but I barely felt it. Everything inside me was already frozen. I should have gone to a friend's, a hotel, anywhere but that truck. But my mind was a mess, a tangled knot of memories, rage, and disbelief. So I stayed, watching the sun rise, watching the world move on like my entire life hadn't just imploded. When I finally went back the next morning, she was still there. Same clothes, eyes red, face pale. She looked up when I walked in like she wanted to run to me, to fall into my arms and pretend none of it was real. I walked past her, didn't say a word. She followed me to the bedroom, begging, crying. She kept repeating it was a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to go that far, that it was just closure with Tyler, that it didn't mean anything. That line hit harder than any slap. Didn't mean anything? She let him inside her home, lied to my face, slept with him in our bed repeatedly. And it didn't mean anything? Then what the hell did we mean? I turned to her, and for the first time in my life I saw pure fear in her eyes. Not because she was scared of me, but because she knew that I was done. I want your passwords, I said. She blinked. What? Everything. Your email, social media, the cloud. If you want to prove you're sorry, give me full access. She hesitated, and right there, in that tiny pause, was the truth. I don't know if I cut her off. Then pack your things. She cracked. Within 10 minutes, I had access to everything. And if I thought the video footage was bad, what I found in those accounts was a level of betrayal I wasn't ready for. There were emails, dozens, some months old, conversations with Tyler that started way before the first time he showed up on camera. Flirty, suggestive, intimate. She told him she missed their fire, that I'd gotten boring, that she sometimes thought about what would have happened if she'd chosen him. But it wasn't just emotional. There were attachments, photos, videos, things she'd sent him from our home, in our living room, in the shower, in the goddamn kitchen while I was at work killing myself to pay the bills and build her dream life. And then the final blow, a message she sent 2 weeks before I found the footage. She told him she was considering leaving me, that she was waiting for the right time, that she wanted to keep things smooth so I wouldn't suspect anything. She never planned to confess. She was going to let me keep living the lie until it was convenient for her to walk away. That's when I knew there was no fixing this. Not with therapy, not with tears, not with time. Some things aren't just broken, they're destroyed. And she had burned every last piece of us to ash. I didn't speak to her for 3 days. Not a single word. I slept on the couch, ate out, left early, came home late. And when I was home, I stayed in the office with the door shut. I couldn't look at her without feeling like I might explode. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smiling at him. Every laugh they shared, every kiss, every filthy word in those messages replayed in my head like poison on loop. But she didn't leave. She stayed. And that was the part one hated the most. She still walked around the house like she belonged in it. Cleaned the kitchen. Folded laundry. Lit candles like we were some cozy, normal couple just going through a rough patch. One night, I found her crying on the bathroom floor. She looked up at me with mascara smeared down her cheeks, her voice cracking as she whispered, "I still love you." And I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was like something inside me had been switched off. The man who used to worship her, who used to count the hours until he could come home to her, he was gone. All that was left was a hollow version of myself, one that watched her cry and didn't flinch. Not because I was cruel, but because I had nothing left to give. That same night, she crawled into the living room and begged me to talk. Said she was willing to go to therapy. That she'd cut all ties with Tyler. That she'd block him, change her number, delete her accounts if she had to. She offered up everything, her privacy, her dignity, as if it would buy her forgiveness. But the thing is, she wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. I saw it in the way she phrased everything, how she talked about rebuilding trust, about starting fresh, like this was just a bump in the road. Like I was supposed to just move past it. She wanted redemption without consequences. But actions like hers don't get clean slates. They leave scars. The worst part? I started blaming myself. I kept wondering if I'd worked too much. If I stopped being spontaneous. If I didn't notice her slipping away because I was too focused on building a future. That's the cruel irony of betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart, it makes you question your worth. Was I not enough? Did I stop being the man she fell in love with? Or did she fall in love with the idea of me, the provider, the loyal one, and then resent me for not being exciting enough to keep her entertained? The truth was probably somewhere in between, but none of it justified what she did. She didn't talk to me. She didn't ask for more. She lied. She manipulated. And she opened her body to someone else while telling me I was the only one. So when I finally spoke again, I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just looked her dead in the eyes and said I want a divorce. She gasped like I'd hit her. Like she was the one being betrayed. But I didn't care anymore. I meant it. And this time I was the one walking away. She didn't accept it at first. Thought it was a threat, a test, a dramatic move to punish her. She kept saying things like, "You don't mean that," and "We can fix this," and "Don't throw us away over one mistake." One mistake. That's what she kept calling it. Like it was some minor lapse in judgment. Like she hadn't willingly built a whole separate relationship behind my back. Right under my nose, in the walls of the home we shared. I filed the papers 2 days later. That's when it finally hit her. The denial cracked, and in its place came a storm of emotion I hadn't seen before. Not sadness, not regret, but desperation. She begged, pleaded. She said she'd do anything. Go to church. Go to rehab even though she wasn't an addict. Said she'd get therapy, individual or couples, whatever I wanted. She wrote me long letters, sent voice messages while I was at work, even called my mother, to ask her to talk me out of it. But nothing she did could erase what I'd seen, what I'd heard, what I'd read. I had lived too many nights replaying her betrayal frame by frame. It was branded into me, part of me now. Her tears didn't soften it. Her words didn't dilute it. If anything, they just made me angrier. Because now she wanted to be the victim. She wanted sympathy for losing something she threw away with both hands. The day she moved out, the house felt heavier than ever. She packed slowly, dragging it out like if she stayed just one more hour, I'd change my mind. I didn't. I helped her load the boxes. Didn't say much. Didn't touch her. I could feel her watching me, hoping for some flicker of emotion. But all I had left was numbness. Before she left, she stood at the front door holding one last box, the one with all our photo albums. "I don't know what to do with these," she said, voice trembling. "Do you want them?" I looked at her for a long time. "No," I said. "That's not us anymore." And I closed the door behind her. I stood in the silence, listening to the echo of her absence. The space she used to fill now felt cold, distant, unrecognizable. Everything looked the same, but nothing was. Her coffee mug was still in the sink. A strand of her hair on the pillow. A faint trace of her perfume in the hallway. But she was gone. And all that remained was the shell of a life we never really had. What came next wasn't relief. It was something darker, emptier. Freedom doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like grief. After she left, the house became too quiet. Not peaceful. Hollow. I'd walk from room to room and feel like I was trespassing in someone else's life. The couch still had the dent from where she used to curl up with her laptop. The bathroom mirror held little smudges from her makeup routine. Even the damn fridge had her favorite oat milk sitting untouched. Expired. Every detail screamed her name. Every object was a ghost of the life we had or the life I thought we had. At first, I couldn't bring myself to change anything. I kept the sheets, the throw pillows, even her shampoo in the shower. I don't know why. Maybe I was punishing myself. Maybe I just wasn't ready to erase her completely. But the worst part wasn't the physical reminders. It was the mental ones, the replaying, the what-ifs. Every silence turned into a memory. Every corner of the house whispered a lie I used to believe. I kept working, though. That was the only thing that made sense anymore. I threw myself into jobs, took on more clients than I could handle. Worked weekends, nights, anything to stay out of the house. Friends noticed. My brother asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I smiled through it. But inside, I was splintering. There's a kind of loneliness that sits in your bones when you've been betrayed. Not just abandoned, but deceived. It's not the absence of someone. It's the realization that the person you trusted most was never really there to begin with. And the questions, they never stopped. Had she been planning it longer than I thought? Was there someone else before Tyler? Had she ever really loved me? One night, I finally broke. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the one where we used to eat dinner, laugh, talk about the future. I looked over at the empty seat across from me and it hit me. None of it had been real. She sat there every night, texting him under the table, smiling at me with the same lips she used to kiss him behind my back. I swept everything off the table in one violent motion: plates, glasses, a picture frame. Shattered glass rained onto the floor, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something. Rage, hurt, raw, screaming grief. I slid down to the floor and cried. Not quiet, manly tears. I sobbed. From the gut. The kind of crying that leaves you hollow after. The kind that scrapes you out from the inside and makes room for something else. And when it was over, I stood up, took a deep breath, and I started cleaning. Not just the glass, but everything. The house. The reminders. The lies. It was time to reclaim my life from the shadows she left behind. I started with the bedroom. Stripped it bare. Threw out the sheets, the pillows, even the mattress. I didn't care about the cost. I didn't care that it was still perfectly usable. It had been theirs, their bed, their secret, their temple of betrayal, and I refused to sleep another night in it. I replaced everything. Bought a new frame, new mattress, even painted the walls a different color. The room felt foreign for a while, but at least it didn't feel like hers. Next came the living room. Gone were the throw blankets she picked out. The cheesy "Love Lives Here" sign she hung above the TV. I boxed up every photo of us, every framed memory, and dropped it off at her sister's place without a word. I didn't want them. Didn't want to remember the smiles we faked while the rot was already setting in. It was like shedding skin. Painful. Necessary. Eventually, I worked my way to the closet. That was the hardest part. Her scent still lingered on some of the clothes she'd left behind. Her scarves. Her old perfume bottle. I stood there for a long time, holding one of her sweaters, and something strange happened. I didn't miss her. I missed the man I used to be before I knew. The man who still believed in what we had. The one who would have fought for her, protected her, died for her. That man was gone, and I mourned him more than I ever mourned her. But even grief has a limit. Eventually, it gives way to something else. Clarity. One afternoon, while reorganizing the office, I found a letter I wrote her years ago. It was from our second anniversary, handwritten, messy, full of love and promises. I read it slowly, line by line, and by the end I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how far I'd come. How much I had given. How blind I had been. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. People kept asking me if I was dating again. If I wanted to get back out there. I wasn't ready. Hell, I didn't know if I ever would be. Trust isn't something you just switch back on. When it breaks, especially the way mine did, it rewires how you see the world. How you see people. Love becomes a puzzle you no longer believe has a solution. But slowly, in quiet moments, I started to feel a shift. I'd wake up and not think of her first. I'd eat dinner without feeling the ache of her absence. I'd laugh at a joke without wondering who she was laughing with now. Little wins. Small steps. And one day, I looked around the house, my house, and realized it finally felt like mine again. Not a crime scene. Not a graveyard. Just a place to start over. Months passed. Seasons changed. The silence that once felt suffocating slowly turned into something comforting. I learned to enjoy my own company again. Cooking for one didn't feel depressing anymore, it felt peaceful. I spent evenings reading, walking, fixing things around the house. There was no tension in the air, no walking on eggshells, no pretending. Just the soft, healing quiet of solitude. And then, out of nowhere, she called. I saw her name flash on the screen and froze. My first instinct was to let it ring. I should have. But something in me was curious. Not hopeful, just unfinished. I answered. Her voice was shaky. Hey. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. You're right, I said flatly. I need to tell you something. I didn't respond. I'm not trying to win you back, she rushed. I swear. I've been in therapy. And I've been thinking about everything. And I realized there's something I never told you, something I should have said the night you found out. I leaned back in my chair, unsure where this was going. Then say it. There was a long pause. Tyler and I, it wasn't just about sex. It was control. I felt small with you, like I was living in your world, your house, your rules. I didn't know how to say it without sounding ungrateful. So I escaped into someone who made me feel powerful again. But it wasn't real. It was a fantasy. And I destroyed something real chasing it. For a moment, I didn't know how to feel. She continued, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know it wasn't because you weren't enough. You were more than enough. I was the one who wasn't. The line went quiet. I realized she was crying. I'm sorry, she said, barely audible. For everything. I hope someday you find someone who deserves you. I could have said a lot of things in that moment, but I only said one. Goodbye, Jessica. And I hung up. That call didn't undo the damage. It didn't change the past. But somehow hearing her say it, hearing her finally own her part without excuse, gave me something I didn't know I needed. Closure. Real closure. Not the kind where you pretend to be okay, but the kind where the wound finally scabs over. Where the memory loses its sting. I stared at my reflection in the dark window after that call. Same face. Same eyes. But a different man. A man who survived it. A man still standing. Life doesn't go back to normal after betrayal. It evolves into something else. Something quieter, maybe lonelier at first, but ultimately more honest. I no longer looked at the world through the lens of a man trying to hold onto something broken. I started seeing things for what they were, clearly, cleanly, without the fog of denial or misplaced loyalty. In the months that followed, I changed in ways I hadn't expected. I started going to the gym again, not to impress anyone, but because I wanted to feel strong for myself. I picked up woodworking, something I hadn't done since high school. There was a calmness in shaping something with your hands, in building instead of breaking. I built a new bookshelf for the office, a bench for the backyard, even a new dining table. One that would never host a lie. I traveled. Not far, just little road trips to clear my head. I went to Utah for a weekend and sat alone at the edge of a canyon, breathing in the silence. I didn't think about her much anymore. Not with rage. Not with pain. Just a dull awareness. Like remembering a song you once loved but no longer play. Sometimes people ask how I can be so calm about it now. I tell them the truth. Anger burns hot, but it doesn't last. It exhausts itself eventually. What's left after is understanding. Not of her, but of yourself. Of what you allowed, what you missed, what you'll never ignore again. I met someone new eventually. It was slow, cautious. I was honest from the start. I told her I wasn't interested in fairy tales or fast sparks. I wanted truth, vulnerability. She didn't flinch. She had her own scars, her own story. We connected not through perfection, but through survival. And in that, there was something beautiful. I don't believe in everything happens for a reason. Some things are just cruel, senseless. But I do believe we choose what to do with the aftermath. And I chose to rebuild not her version of me, but my version. The man I always was before love blurred the lines. So, if you're reading this, if you're sitting in the wreckage of a betrayal, wondering if you'll ever breathe easy again, let me tell you this. You will. It'll take time. It'll hurt. But one day you'll stand up from the ruins and realize you didn't just survive it. You outgrew it. You became someone stronger, sharper, kinder, and more free than you ever thought possible. And that is the gift hidden inside the pain. This wasn't a story about how she broke me. It's a story about how I put myself back together. Piece by honest piece.